All right, so part 2 of the MGTOW, it's a dead end, part 2. All right, so it's pretty interesting. The reactions I got were pretty interesting. I got a couple of comments and, well, 2 of them, I think, they deleted them. So I can't truly answer those, but I will somewhat answer those. But I want to answer the questions because I think this is important. I'm not going to say that, a lot of you don't want to change, so I can't, but it seems like some of you understand this, so that is great. But I can't, change you unless you want to change yourself. Well, I can't change you at all, actually. But the thing I can only do is plant a seed in your head. So I'm just gonna read these, and I answered one guy, but I will answer all of you in this video. All right, so the first guy, he said, Eagle6, he says, MGTOW is not about hating women or anyone at all. MGTOW is about protecting and improving yourself. All right, so first off, what I mean by, hating, I obviously understand that not all of you hate women. Many of you, or anyone at all, many of you just, well, not just, you have resentment still. Most of them have resentment towards women. So we can't deny this fact, all right? Now, if you're a MGTOW and you don't, that's a different thing. I'm speaking in general terms here because I can't capture every single individual here. I understand that there are differences, but I'm speaking of the general. I answered him, protecting and improving are opposites. And it's true, because protecting yourself is preservation. That's a womanly character. And it's not wrong. It's just that if you're a man, you shouldn't be womanly. Being manly takes risk, and improving yourself means working on yourself in all areas of life, including relationships, all right? Health, wealth, relations, and spirituality, all right? All of them. You gotta include all of them. And within relations, we have sexuality also. We are sexual creatures. So if you're going MGTOW, or any monk for that matter, all the monks for millennia are like this. They are unhealthy. So that is why I care here. I care because you're all unhealthy. The same way all these monks have been unhealthy through the millennia. Now, I can't do anything about that, but I can do something about young men going into this trap. I might be able to pull some people out, but it's up to the people, of course. I can't do anything technically. I can only guide, so to speak. Anyway, so and then he said, well, and this was predictable. Eagle6, this was very predictable. I knew that you would say this. It's very risky for men. So even, for example, when you have laws of divorce, as it is now, very risky for men. I have to get married because being manly takes risk. No, that's certainly not what I mean. That is certainly not what I mean. First off, there are many layers to this, all right? This answer will have many layers. This answer will have many layers. Oh, and by the way, I'm not saying that MGTOW is impossible, or that obviously we've had monks for millennia, Obviously we've had celibacy since perhaps even, since Homo sapiens. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm saying it's unhealthy. You see, you gotta listen to my words. And also, I'm not even talking about divorce and stuff. Now, obviously, usually MGTOWs, they are worried about divorce stuff and stuff like that. And they have a point. I agree that there are many laws in the West that tilt towards women and never men. Well, a lot of time not men. And a lot of the time we ignore, for example, boys, they have problems in school and so forth. Everything is just focused on girls and women. And that's a problem as well. Of course it is. We should, of course, both should have a focus. We're both. We're not just women on earth, we're men and women on earth. And you can't just ignore, you can, but you will be unhealthy. But you can't just ignore the other half of humanity. You can, but you will be unhealthy. You can never be satisfied in life. Now, divorce thing, all right? First off, I never said you have to get married. You don't have to get married. I never said you have to get married. Why do you have to get married? You can still have a partner. You can still have someone you love for your whole life. You don't have to be married. You can have this person and grow with this person your whole life. You don't have to be married. Who said about marriage? First off. Now, second, you could also move to a different country or a state if those laws are terrible there. Now, so you see, you gotta take things into your own hands. You can't just complain or have this resentment build up within you. That is unhealthy, all right? And that's my main point here, that it's unhealth, because my whole channel is about health. So it will always be about health, because I've put philosophy at the center. Well, I've put everything, health and life, at the center of everything. I will make after this, I will make another lecture about the visual of the core, and I will also explain health at the center of life and why this is the most important thing. Now, that will be perhaps my most important recent video, actually. Manly takes a risk. No, being manly takes risk. Yes, that is true. You take risk, all right? But preserving, collecting, there is a reason why women are like analyzing and always worrying and always protecting. They're protecting. You see, he said protecting. They're always protecting the children. They're always protecting. I'm not saying that all women have to be this or all women, generally, that's the traits. That's the general traits. And we want to enhance these traits if we want to be great or have greater health, because otherwise we're going against our own nature. So my whole point is, don't go against your own nature. A man wants a woman wants a man. And of course a man can be, he can do his own thing and just think about that and nothing else. Of course he can do this, but you have nuns as well. Women can also do this, all right? It's not like, yeah, men can do this, but women can't be alone with themselves. They need a man. That is not true. Why do we have nuns for millennia and very intelligent nuns as well in history? Those examples is Hildegard von Bingen. Now that's an intelligent woman that, didn't need a man. All right, so you have an example, but it doesn't mean that she was healthy. And the same, by the way, I mentioned Tesla, but the thing about Tesla, of course, he had meaning in the long run, all right, in the long term, but he never had children. So if you have children, I never said that if you have children, you lack meaning in life. Of course, you put all your meaning into your children, of course. Life should be hardship. But you're trying to protect yourself and avoid hardship, which will only generate more conflict within yourself. I know this because I've done this for 5 years. Well, I did that for like 5 years or more. I wasn't MGTOW, but I was, this artistic syndrome thing. So there is, but it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. I realize that everything is the same, as Heraclitus said. Everything is the same. So, and this is just a perspective thing. So, you gotta get married. No, you don't have to get married. And also, not just that, but here's a deeper thing for Eagle 6, by the way. Here's a deeper thing. Why are you relying on these laws and society? You should own yourself. That is always what I'm talking about. I'm always talking about working on yourself and improving yourself. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Of course, you should do that. And in some sense, of course, there is a small part of protecting yourself, always. All men have a little bit of womanly in them, and all women have a little bit of manliness. So, and we have this from hormones. We can see this, But testosterone and estrogen. But the main manly thing, the emphasis should be testosterone, and the emphasis for women should be estrogen, because that is the nature of things. You can't change the balance of estrogen in you or the testosterone. Now, obviously we have things in modern, but if you want to be natural and healthy, that is what I'm saying. Obviously we can insert things, but that's a different thing. But not just different, that's actually unhealthy. So, so why are you relying on the state? You shouldn't rely on the state. And usually you people hate communists. All right, and I also dislike communism, but it's pretty ironic here. And it's pretty ironic how you're unmanly and womanly by being men going their own way. You know, men. It shouldn't be men going their own way. It should be womanly men going their own way. And the same with women, actually. If they're becoming nuns almost, you know, that should be manly women going their own way. So you're relying on the state, all right? You hate communism, but you yourself rely on these laws and state and everything. Who the hell cares about these laws? Who cares about these laws? And who cares that it's a risky for a man? As if you care about other men. All of a sudden you care about all men. No, you don't. You don't care about all men. And first off, you should care about yourself first and then try to help others. You shouldn't... Obviously, you're not a well-developed character. Otherwise, you wouldn't react this way in the first place if you were a well-developed characters. All these comments are just evidence of this. So let's go to the next. I think this guy understands. I haven't read the whole thing. I think this guy understands things, but I'm focusing on meaning in life only through male-female relations. No, I don't do that, but all right. First off, you've only seen one video of mine. I have like over 100 videos, so I can say that MGTOW has probably been better for me than the path I was on. All right, so perhaps it was, perhaps it is. I mean, I've been on a dark path myself, so, but there is a different way, all right? It's not like there is only one path in life. There are many paths in life. The same way there is not one truth in life. I'll make a truth video as well. I used to be a person wallowing in self-pity because I couldn't find companionship. That's true, you shouldn't be in self-pity. Since going MGTOW, I'm focused on self-improvement instead of seeking validation. That's good, actually. That's good. I'm more combative and stand up for myself, which women find more attractive. Exactly. That's exactly it. But why are you then ignoring women? You know, I've dug myself out of the deep depression I was in because women treated me as if I was invisible since puberty. You see, but then you put the blame on women instead of keep on building these manly traits, you know. Women treated me as if I was invisible. It was your own fault that you were invisible. You hadn't worked on yourself yet. You hadn't, you know, approached women and so forth. I hated myself before MGTOW. Now, obviously, you shouldn't hate yourself, all right? You should never hate yourself. My whole point here is to love yourself, all right? I don't want people to misunderstand me. I gained a lot of love of discipline when I went MGTOW. Discipline is good. Women find me more attractive and I have more, well, you're just repeating yourself there. Women find me more attractive. I have more sex since going MGTOW. All right. So you are, so you're not actually MGTOW. MGTOW doesn't mean going monk mode. It's an option. MGTOW enabled me to pull back, evaluate myself, find meaning in life and start embracing life's challenges. Well, that's a good thing. I mean, if that is the definition of MGTOW, then, I mean, there is nothing wrong with it. If that's the definition of MGTOW, you should reevaluate yourself. I find it strange that you're focusing on finding meaning in life only through the male life relationships. I don't. Meaning of life for me is health, not through not just male-female relationships. That is one part of it, but it is not the main part of it. It is meaning of life is health. And relationships is part of health, because every time you say that, oh, I haven't find a good woman, or, you know, I only find bad women and so forth, you're unsatisfied in life and you want to reach something greater, and that's good. You should find a quality woman, but you should be a quality man to attract a quality woman. Like you said, you started to, stand up for yourself. You've improved yourself. That is all great. Those are all great things. I'm not against this. I think there is so much more. Of course, there is so much more. You have the whole human condition. Life is not just about relationships. I never claimed that everything is just relationships. You've only watched one video of mine. I go through a lot of things, and mainly actually improving yourself first. That is my whole philosophy. You start improving yourself first, and then you move outwards. I always talk about core, and then you move outwards from the core. I will make this lecture, a new lecture later. All right, so monk mode. All right, so MGTOW doesn't mean monk mode. Now, of course, that's his interpretation. I've seen interpretations that are monk mode-like, all right? Because people say that. They say like, you're like a monk, So he finds it strange, but we're all in this digital thing. So he has his interpretation, I have mine. Well, not just I have mine. I've observed all of you because I've seen you in Twitter discussions and stuff like that way before. Also, if society wants this large collective men to start engaging again, so work needs to be done on the welfare state and divorce family courts. You see, again, this courts thing, divorce thing, and also welfare state. You see, I'm actually against, you shouldn't rely on the welfare state. And also you're in these, I will mention this in my lecture as well, because you're always collecting these things, and all this bitterness and all this resentment, it goes in you. And if you're MGTOW, you're just going to get worse. But by the way, just having sex also that's also meaningless. So you're essentially not a MGTOW, you're essentially just a regular guy, like a player guy. You're basically a player, you're just a player. That's nothing new here. That's nothing new. You're not a MGTOW, you're a player. A MGTOW is a monk. We gotta have some differences, otherwise the language doesn't make sense. So what's the difference between a player? If this is true, what's the difference between a player and a MGTOW? There is no difference except perhaps caring about, divorce, family courts, things. But you don't truly care about this because a lot of you haven't even experienced this. You're just talking about stuff out of, not from experience, but just talking about stuff, all right? You're just, truth has to be experienced in some sense. All right, I will get into why Jordan Peterson is almost right about that, but not really. That encourage single motherhood. Divorce family courts that encourage single motherhood, which is detrimental to society as a whole, especially the children involved in these relationships. All right, so yeah, single motherhood. Yeah, I agree. I agree that there are problems there. Of course there are, but you don't focus on that. Your life is more important than this garbage, all right? That's my point. My point is, now of course you might agree with this because you said you're all about improving yourself, but you're all about improving yourself, but then you have to move on and you gotta improve relationships part of yourself, all right? Improving yourself doesn't mean I'm just gonna improve myself in terms of training and exercise and attracting women for sex. That's a meaningless life as well. At the very least, you have to create a legacy, but this is not a legacy. You're creating nothing, but you're creating something temporary. That's a temporary thing. To create a legacy, that takes more. So of course, the temporary is also important. It is important. So yeah, but that's the first purpose. But you will hit a wall, all right? Many of you will understand me perhaps maybe years later that, all right, that guy on YouTube, he was correct. I hit a wall, and this wall tells me that, all right, now what? I have my body, or, I can attract women, but now what? What's the next step here? To just continue reading and, not just reading, I mean, just having these experiences. Now, obviously, life is about experiences, but you're not exploring all experiences because you're denying another part of humanity. And it is not just about male, female. You see, it's about health. It's about health, because you will never reach satisfaction if you continually ignore this part of yourself. Ignoring improving this part of yourself. You see, your own words here, your own words. You said it yourself. So I agree a lot with this guy. His name is great as well. Subject to change. I think, is that Peterson or something? I don't, it looks like Peterson, but subject to change. That's great. I love change. You should change yourself. You should focus on yourself. You should keep on improving yourself. I agree with all of that. All my old videos, I always mention this, so I'm not against that. But I just wanted to clear things up, all these things up. All right, so the guy who said you're the worst philosopher, that guy knows most of what I'm saying, actually. because he intuitively knows exactly that I'm right. So, otherwise he wouldn't react that way. Now, the validation thing. We live for, actually almost for validation. That's why people create things. That is why, you create for yourself, in part, definitely. I'm a creator myself, so I understand this. You create for yourself, but you also create for others. Otherwise, what's the point of creating? Like Tarkovsky says in Stalker, in the movie Stalker, like Pisatel says, the writer, he says, if a genius already knows why he's a genius, then what does he write for? So, it is about writing and then publishing it, but not just writing, it can be anything, but your legacy. That's why I speak of legacy. So you got to be a creator to have a long-term meaning in life. And you see, it's not about male-female relationships there, you see. It's something deeper than that. It is about immortality, actually. So that's why in some sense, you seek validation, because you want the world to memorize you forever. That's why you have all these greats. Well, you have all these kings in the past and leaders and emperors and so forth. Julius Caesar, he's immortal in a lot of ways. He immortalized himself through his own creation. So that is that. And actually, I will go to one guy. He said, I have daughters and stuff. So I just want to say that, yeah, I mean, that's great. I couldn't see the whole thing. He deleted the comment. It looks like I missed one. Approval. But the way he writes is just terrible. YouTube thinks this is spam. So, misinformed my benighted friend, and I add the word flawlessly. MGTOW means different things to those within it. Yeah, exactly, of course. The same way Christianity means different things for Christians. All right? However, so, I gotta capture the general. I can't capture all of you. That is impossible. So this is actually the closest, by commenting directly like this, that's the closest I can get. However, it's the ability to function without external validation nor the need for societal acceptance and approval. Now, in some sense, yes, that is great. I mean, I'm not against that. That is not what I spoke against, That is not what I spoke against. Acceptance and approval. You shouldn't have their you don't want their acceptance. You don't want their acceptance and approval. You want the approval and validation of the future humans that find you great, your legacy, that finds your great legacy great. That's the long term, all right? not necessarily removing oneself unless the individual among many desire to do so. All right, so that sounds like suicide. Removing oneself. Yeah, removing oneself. But you see, that's preservation, and then start to killing yourself slowly. That's precisely where I were, you know, torturing my core. Many of you are just keep on torturing. You keep on torturing your core, actually. So it is very unhealthy. I've done this myself. So now, of course, if you want to kill yourself, that's up to you. Of course, it is. I can't stop you. It's impossible for me to stop you. You have a right to do so. As a man, your own value and worth as the only living being creating in the image of Holy God. All right, so yeah, Holy God and all that. That's a true man of a heterosexual nature. Yeah, but a true man of heterosexual nature loves a woman and has sex with a woman. All right. You said it yourself, heterosexual. It doesn't mean hermit, all right? It doesn't mean you're castrating yourself. But MGTOWs are castrating themselves, basically. Monks are doing that. You see, it's unhealthy. But you're going against your own words there. Even God, no God, doesn't matter. Which is one's own power by choice that cannot and shall not allow those of a perverse mind to define to redefine it to men. Perverse mind, yeah. I don't know, he's talking about modern culture where we're perverse, perhaps, and stuff like that. And I agree that that is also a form of suppression. That is part of the symptoms. That is part of the whole symptom here. This shouldn't even exist. MGTOWs and feminists shouldn't even exist. It is all unnatural. We're in a society, and this is what society has created. You see, I'm not for society. You shouldn't rely on society. That is what I'm for. You shouldn't rely on society. Now, perhaps you want to put me into this libertarian thing, but I'm not a libertarian either. All right, you can't put me into something because I'm against all of mainstream. All right, what else? Neither via government, private institution, nor females. This is who MGTOW men are. MGTOW men do not have anger towards females because if these men allow themselves to suffer an emotional reaction to everything somebody say, that bothers that person. It means words can control them, and so can everyone else. Yeah. Well, yeah, you decide if something is going to hurt you. That is great from Stoicism, actually. But suffer, you can suffer. But life is suffering, all right? Life is suffering. You can't avoid suffering. You can try to avoid suffering, but this is truly a dead end. You see, this is truly a dead end because there is not even a God. This guy has a God, but a lot of you don't even have a God to work towards, so there is nothing in afterlife, you know. So what are you striving for? You have nothing to strive for in that sense, all right? I'm not saying if you have children and so forth, of course you have meaning there. You see, I'm not talking about, speaking in general terms because I have to. I'm speaking to a camera. What else? By the way, this very thing once thought written in Tao's of Bruce Lee, all right? That's interesting. Who suggested for individuals to be as malleable, fluid, and adaptable as water. Yeah, I like that. I hope you have a good day. All right, yes. Every day is a good day. And yes, Bruce Lee's, I mean, that's correct. You see, you have a lot of, it is almost correct, all right? MGTOW, you see, MGTOWs are not, all right, some of you are, you know, like the one, some of you truly have hatred and resentment, but not all of you, all right? Not all of you. I will actually accept this, even though it looks like spam. I will accept it because it's not that bad. All right. Anyway, so yeah, Bruce Lee, fluidity, adaptability, change, improving yourself. Technically, in my philosophy, technically it's not improving yourself. You're going from one deeper desire, from lower desires to deeper desires that are higher, because they will move you towards your legacy. That is my whole philosophy. You ignore, eating garbage, you start training, you start working on all areas of life. That's the whole purpose of my philosophy. And all areas of life. You see, I say all areas of life. We don't deny anything of human nature. But that's the problem with MGTOW. You deny one part of human nature there. All right? So, and the societal and all that. Ignore the societal, work on yourself. That is that. So, you see, I'm not totally against these MGTOW guys. You're not totally off the charts here. You're not totally, some of you at least. It is pretty interesting, and there are a lot of similarities. I can see a lot of similarities, but there are important differences, and they're super important, because you're not adapting, all right? You think you're adapting, but you're actually not adapting, because you should be able to put yourself into that situation and then adapt and let that form you and sculpt you. You gotta understand the general meaning of what I'm saying here. You can call it monk, but you can call it whatever you want to. You're still leaving part of the humanity here. Now that guy, he was basically just a player. You're not MGTOW, all right? You're not MGTOW. You see, some of you are just on the edge there. But if I wanted to, I could just leave humanity, but then I leave humanity and I just live for myself, and that is pointless. It is pointless. I'm just eating, sleeping, training perhaps, working, and a lot of you don't even work on your legacy, so that makes it even more meaningless. And I'm not talking to you people that are parents. If you're a parent, it's a whole nother level there. You have a lot of, many more factors, and you have meaning in your children, of course. This was fun, this was interesting. Now I will get into core and why the core is important. It's about health. All of this is about health. It is not about, you put a lot of emphasis on relationships. No, I don't. Watch all of my, watch my philosophy lectures and you will understand where I come from. It is not about just relationships. I barely even talk about relationships. But it is an important thing. And you can't deny that part of humanity. You can deny, of course, and you can go your own way, but you will never be fully satisfied in life. You will not experience the full experience of life, the full human condition. You will ignore part of the human nature and part of humanity, and you will be unhealthy. That's it. All right? So if you want to change, you decide if you want to change. So you have to apply things and change. But of course, it is important that you work on yourself and improve yourself and focus on yourself as well. And then you move outwards, you help others. When you're stable enough, you help others, and so forth. And if you have any questions about owning yourself, I go deeper into this in my philosophy lectures. It is deeper than that, It is about owning yourself. It is not about relying on external things. Exactly like a lot of you think. You shouldn't rely on external things. In some sense, you have to rely on certain things, but most of the time, you shouldn't rely on external things. Technology, of course, that's an external thing, but it should aid us, not hinder us. Anyway, that was fun. I will talk to you later or tomorrow.